Hello Tracy, and hello those joining us for the live stream. I'm going to be spending an hour basically teaching tarot by doing actual readings. So can someone confirm if they can hear me? That would be a great start, and then we can have a look at how we're going to use the cards today. I've got a few ideas for what I'd like to demonstrate today, so if anyone has a question, particularly if you're looking for some sort of practical advice. Hello Bill. And thank you Tracy for being a member of the Magician's Bookshelf channel. I've got some exclusive videos to put up. I took some videos inside the reading room of the British Museum. We're not allowed to really show those publicly. It's research for private use only, but I can share some of that on the membership channel because obviously that's exclusive to members. Hello Frank. Hello Frank. How are you doing on this very good Friday? Literally a good Friday. So my intent with these videos is basically to do readings, but also demonstrate my thinking process for what that's worth, look at the books that I refer to or have co-written, and look at the symbolism, look at the research that we've done, and really how to use that on the table, because I'm all about the reading and the reading methods. Hello Vianne, hello Birds, hello Tranquil. Hello, Piper. Hello. So, that's very kind of you to say, Tracy. I'm looking forward over the year to putting some very, very unique, exclusive videos because I prefer to do things that can't be found elsewhere or anywhere else rather than churn over the same public information that tends to happen sometimes with videos. So a career question for Tranquil, and I'm going to do what I call the next step method. And I recalled the first person I showed this to, and they basically asked me where I'd learnt it from. And I said, well, it's just the way I do readings, because a lot of clients will have the reading, will understand the reading, and then they'll say, but what do I do about it? So I figured out that I needed some sort of tarot-based method from the cards themselves as to what to actually do in a situation. So Tranquil, we are going to do a career question. It's, I'm sorry to hear that you got laid off. You're looking for a new job. Just did an interview yesterday looking for a reading regarding my situation. That is a really useful question because you're looking for practical, everyday advice from the tarot cards. So I'm going to do a next step method, and we can do this in all sorts of different ways. Like most tarosophy techniques, it's very adaptable, and I would prefer in all of these videos and in all of our books and so forth to try and learn the principle behind the thing rather than the thing itself. This is a method. I try not to teach methods. I prefer to teach the language, the approach, the thinking behind the method, because that gives you more flexibility. And also, it's not the methods that do the reading that give you a powerful or elegant or adaptive, flexible, agile reading with another person. It's your approach, it's your incorporation and utilization of the cards, of the situation, of the question, and so forth. As we saw last week when we did the week before, when we did the video, I think I did the metaphor method, where we actually turn someone's question into a unique spread for them. And again, that's not a method, that's something that I do because I approach the tarot as a language, and once you start to do that and speak the language of the cards themselves, your readings will become more flexible. So don't fret if you perhaps don't remember a method. just always go back to reading the cards, incorporation and utilization at all times. So let me clear my little box out of the way. We might look at the Philosopher's Stone deck if we get time. We looked at the side cards last week or the week before, the previous video. That was quite fun. So, okay, so a career question. And sometimes people sort of say, well, how do you know when to stop shuffling? My particular method is I either recite the Golden Dawn, in effect, incantation, which gives a timed end point for the shuffling itself, or sometimes I just prefer to shuffle until the cards start shuffling themselves, and it feels like they are like almost asking me like this to put them in a particular pattern. And sometimes they'll do that for a while. Sometimes it feels like I've munked it up and I've done a shuffle that I shouldn't have done, and they want to then have to adjust the reading and put that card there and that card there and so forth. I don't know how other people do their shuffling or feel when it's time to stop shuffling, or they ask their client to shuffle and cut the cards, sometimes with your left hand and in 3 piles and so forth. There's, again, lots of varied ways of doing it. Lots of varied ways of shuffling. There's that sort of overhand shuffle where you just shuffle like this. It's my younger brother who's actually the shuffler of the family. I'm not that good. And then there's a sort of backwards and forward shuffle. Apparently, statistically, a mixture of methods, like doing a riffle with them, although my cards don't like being riffled, but they will put up with it for demonstration purposes. I'm trying to talk into the microphone as well as sort of riffle them and so forth. So there's plenty of ways of shuffling. The Golden Dawn invocation, which we can use for Tranquil's question, is this. I invoke thee, Haru, the great angel that is set over the operations of this secret wisdom, to lay your hands invisibly upon these consecrated cards of art, that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things to the glory of thine ineffable name. And then that changes the state entirely. So, okay, so a career question. Looking for a reading regarding my situation. So we're going to do 3 cards for you, and then we're going to use this Tarosophy method, approach, trick, whatever you want to call it, question and answer with the cards. So the Page of Swords is your current situation. So this is you. This is you looking for employment. You're using your common sense, you're using your mind, you're holding back a little bit, you're not quite sure where to go and where to look at the moment. The Page of Swords is a very hesitant card of the mind. It is a sort of withdrawing of the mind. If we take a look, for example, in Tarot Flip and look for the Page of Swords in this book, we will find a what you say, and the Page of Swords is expectation channeling. The Page of Swords indicates that the energy which must be applied should follow the rules laid down for the particular game. And this is the reversed meaning. It's to do with law. The oracular title is A Windmill Turning in a Good Wind. A windmill turning in a good wind. So it's about playing by the rules, actually following through the expectations of your process of applying for jobs, not doing anything crazy, not doing anything out of bounds, out of the ordinary, dressing up in some particular way and marching down the street with a big sign, something out of the box. Sometimes the cards, like if it was the Page of Cups, that might suggest something slightly more creative in terms of job searching. But this is saying basically you're following the rules of the game. Now, interestingly enough, we have a King of Pentacles, which I would suggest indicates that where you are best suited is a company that, or a place of work that is well established, that is mature, and isn't just like a creative startup. Tranquil, does that seem to go against what you are looking for, or for what you are looking for, or somewhere in between, that you haven't really, that you have no particular preference as to whether it's a, startup company or something new, creative, fresh and vibrant, or something that's well established with its own structures and its own history and so forth? Because this card, the King of Pentacles, is suggesting that the Page of Swords has to really apply itself to the King of Pentacles. Yeah, so something far more stable, something with its own structure and history. So that's cool. So that is something different, which perhaps accounts for some of the caution. And then the third card is the Moon. And the Moon is really about fear. It's about the unknown. If we again look in Tarot Flip, the Moon says some things are unknown and we must learn more to make progress. So there's a sense of needing more information, having to do more research so that you can actually get out of the pool where you're in and walk the road less travelled. So again, that's suggesting that part of the hesitancy might be because you know that the Moon is ahead of you, that the role that you need to take is something a little bit maybe it reflects on your beliefs and your ethics, perhaps, that it's not the sort of thing you would usually have your friends and people around you associate you with. It's not going to be something that makes you look cool and good and great and with it or anything. It's something that is quite unknown and something that will feel as if it's an untrodden road for you. Okay? So that is basically a 3-card reading for a person. So does that make sense in terms of its own context, that you are looking for work? It's got to be something that is well established, and that's going to be quite a new thing for you, and perhaps a bit frightening in the sense of it being unknown as to where that will lead you and how that reflects, literally the Moon's reflection on you as a person. Okay, so we'll just have a quick pause, just make sure Tranquil's still with us. Okay, now this is only half the reading, Tranquil. So quite often when you do a reading, it can seem somewhat abstract. It can seem somewhat, yeah, that's all very well and good, but when I leave the session, when I leave the reading, when in this case I leave the video, oh my gosh, thank you, Tranquil. That's entirely unnecessary, but thank you so much. Yeah, so the client will often say, yeah, but what do I do about it? What do I do? What is my next step? And I think it was literally a client who said, I really need to know. I can't see my next step in this. The cards are showing me the situation, they're showing me how to understand it, they're showing me where to go with it and so on. But what do I actually do? What's the next step? And they literally did this with their hand as they were talking about it. What's the next step? And they literally made a little hop and a leap to the next step. And I thought to myself, well, we are tarot card readers. In terms of the system, the language of the tarot, which as I understand it is very, very Kabbalistically based, and you can look at it in terms of astrology or numerology or anything else that you want, but it is a structure. It's a stable structure that maps our universe and maps everything past, present and future simultaneously in some weird holographic way. So it must be able to tell us what the next step is. Surely it is a fortune-telling device. It should tell us the future, and it should tell us what best to do to make our future for us. So I took a look at the cards and I had to think about it. And I thought, how do we tell the next step? And then I thought, well, the cards that are on the table are for the present situation, a bit like a horary astrology, where you do the reading based on the time the person asks the question, whether it's where should I find my lost car, or what will happen when I attend this meeting. You do the reading to some extent based on the time that they ask the question, because that's the time that it's interacting with all of the energies of the person doing the reading, doing the chart. So I thought, well, if that's the reading now, where do we get the next step from? And then I thought, well, actually, it's already in the reading, because to me, the cards progress, like the Fool's Journey, but in a bigger sense, the cards progress. So the next card on from, say, for example, the Ace of Cups is the Two of Cups. They go in a sequence. The next card from the Seven of Cups is the Eight of Cups. The next card of the Chariot, card 7 in the Major Arcana. So I'm just making sure that the cards are appearing on the screen there. The next card from the Nine of Swords, have a guess. That would be the Ten of Swords. Now, when you get to the end of a suit, for example, if we can find and there we go, thank you, there's a 10 of Wands. The next card is the Ace of Wands, because like a slot machine, it just cycles round the cards. So the Ace of Cups goes to the 10 of Cups and then back to the Ace of Cups and so forth. Does that make sense as a concept in terms of the minor and the major arcana? Obviously, the World card goes around from 21 to the Magician. Not the Fool, because the Fool is unnumbered, or the 0. 21 goes back to 1. Okay? The Emperor. Next card is the Hierophant. Card 4 goes to card 5, and so on. 3 of Swords, next card is the 4 of Swords, and so forth. 10 of Cups goes to the Ace of Cups. It cycles around the Cups, cycles around the Swords, cycles around the Wands and the Pentacles. The major arcana cycle round in the Fool's Journey. Does that make sense, everyone? Because I'm going to ask you a question next based on that, just to see if you are with me still. So the Queen of Pentacles, what is the next step for the Queen of Pentacles? What is the next card from the Queen of Pentacles? If anyone can type that into the chat. And you'll already be guessing how this is going to apply to the reading we are doing for Tranquil today. I'm going to ask you to help me with the reading. Okay, so the Queen of Pentacles, what is the next card? What is the next step from the Queen of Pentacles? Exactly. Brilliant, Tranquil. Yep, the King of Pentacles. Simple as that. King of Pentacles. So the next step from the Knight of Wands would be the Queen of Wands. Brilliant. Everyone's got it. Dead easy. Knight of Wands goes to the Queen of Wands. Knight of Pentacles goes to the Queen of Pentacles. and so forth. Now, here's the only trick question, sort of, but if you've been listening, you'll have the answer already. What's the next card for the King of Swords, then? What's the next card for the King of Swords? What do you think the next card for the King of Swords might be? Based on this sort of slot machine idea of each suit going round in its own ranking system, in its own cycle. The minor arcana go through the minor arcana cycle, 1 to 10. The major arcana, brilliant, Bill. Right, Bill's first in there. Yeah, the King of Swords goes to the Page of Swords because they cycle around in their own little energetic system. It's just the way the cards are structured. I didn't make up the rules. That's the way the cards are structured and the way that they've stabilised over the years. Does that make sense? So, let's see if we can do this reading together then. So what is the next step then for Tranquil? What is her next step? What should she actually do? The Page of Swords. What is the next step for the Page of Swords? I'm just sorting out the cards in advance. I've not gone away. I'm still here. King of Pentacles. The next card is... right at the bottom of the... Exactly. So, Knight of Swords is the next step for the Page of Swords. King of Pentacles cycles back round to the Page of Pentacles, and the Moon is rather wonderfully, and this always works. It always gives you incredible, obvious advice for what the person should actually do, because it's built into the cards themselves. And we are tarot card readers, so if anyone asks you a question, always think, how does this work with the tarot? How does it actually work inside the tarot as a map, as a language? And then that will give you the answer. It will give you the actual method that you need to deploy. Indeed, yes. Yes. We can make a night of it, as they say. So, what we then have is a next step. This is the reading. Something new starts, not brand new like an ace, but something refreshed to do with their thoughts. This leads to a champion of finances or greater control of them, and the Moon shows emotion or joy. Oh, I see. So that's a reading across here. Yeah, there's something new starts, not brand new, something refreshed to do with thinking. This leads to a champion of finances, getting hold of your finances, or greater control of them, and the Moon shows emotion, joy. Yep, I'd certainly accept that as a reading of those cards. My question with students and anyone doing a reading is always, what is it in the cards? How do you see that in the cards? What makes you say that? What makes you say that? And this is what I'm hoping to do with these live videos, is for people to say, why do you say that? How do you say that? And hopefully my answer, my personal answer will always be, it's here. That's in that card. That's in that card. That's in the combination of these cards. That's because this card corresponds to Pisces, and the two dogs I'm reading like this because of the symbolism involved with the question and so on. We have to be able to take it from the cards, not just from our heads, but from the cards themselves. So this is your next step, okay? Tranquil. So I'm going to read it and then we'll have a look at how I've read it and maybe advice from everyone else as well. We've got about 12 people and we've always included myself. That's a full coven. So we have a full coven online at the moment of 13 of us, which is great. So the coven of the cards this evening. So the Knight of Swords is to go forward and really make applications. So don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. If you're not applying for jobs, then you need to be applying. Basically, I know you are applying, but you shouldn't have any resting time. This is on the go. This is on the move. Look at the movement there. Again, just referring to my little Bible here of Tarot Flip. The Knight of Swords is expectation, responding, upright, pursuit. So I'm just testing the mute button while I had a little cough there. So pursuit. In this card, we clearly see the energy that you must bring to bear, pursuing what it is that you believe in. And the oracular title is A Man in a Vehicle Chases the Storm. Pursuit. Okay, so you have to really put yourself out there. You cannot be passive. You cannot wait. You can't be patient. You've got to get a move on. Basically, this card is really the card of getting a move on. So my practical advice from this next step method is not, okay, I can see you're doing this at the moment. The actual next step for you is to accelerate your pursuit of work. Does that make sense, Tranquil? That your next step is to decide something, to do something that accelerates the pace at which you are pursuing your new career, your new job, your new position. Make sense? And I usually, if I'm working with a client, thank you, Tranquil, if I'm working with a client, then I will actually get them to write it down as a little tick box action. I'm a terrible person for this. I have little lists by my computer with little squares that I draw by them so I can tick them off when I've done them. And that's just the way I try and remember what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. The second step that you have to do is the Page of Pentacles. The second thing you need to do is look at your finances and actually do that in a really honest, open way. Look at your current budget, look at what you're spending, look at the bills that are coming in, look at the and actually just going back to that card, as Vianne's saying, that can be making connections with other people as well, communicating. It's definitely going out into the marketplace with it. And as Chua's saying, arm yourself up, charge in. It'll be a field you feel new in. I guess that's both of those to some extent, but have experience to handle it. The sun takes time to rise, but it will shine bright. Excellent. Okay, it's fine however you want to interpret it. As we say, the oracular moment is sacrosanct. My reading in terms of practical next steps is to double the speed at which you're applying, so accelerate. Weigh up your finances, do a budget spreadsheet or a list on the back of an envelope and so forth. And, thank you, Lilith. Yeah, I mean, when I was 15 and first, I've been reading for a couple of years by then, but just by myself and for other people. But I wasn't reading books or anything other than the Stuart Kaplan book, which was mainly about history, not about reading. And I thought, okay, how do you learn? Well, you go and watch people learning. And I went to psychic fairs. I had to lie about my age in Derby at the time to get into all of these different psychic fairs and sit down, and I would pay I was cleaning caravans at the time, and I would pay my caravan money from the Saturday on the Sunday sort of circuit of these healing fairs and psychic fairs and tarot reading tables that were in the marketplace in Derby at the time. And I would sit with these people and I would ask for a reading, and I would say I was 18, they would do me the reading, and then I'd say, I noticed you didn't mention this on this card. Why is that? Or I'd say, you missed this card entirely. Did I miss something with that? Or why did you say this about this card? And people would get really upset with me and really not want to discuss the approach, the methodology. And of course, this is pre-internet, so there's no way of learning. And so this is like a return back to that, because we now have the capability to show each other how we do the reading. And then we learn, and then we can expand and improve our own readings as well. So, so the Page of Pentacles is the budgeting thing, which may not have been obvious from this first reading, you see. This is the way the next step method works. It isn't an instruction necessarily in this reading. We read the King of Pentacles as maybe the big company that you need to go and look for, the well-established company, the company with history, the company with a structure, the company with a pension plan, and so on. It's not working for yourself or anything, but that doesn't necessarily give you a practical next step to get to that company, to reach that company. But by accelerating the pace of your applications, and then by looking at your own budget, like how long have you got your current resources for? When are you going to, if you are, run out of money and so forth? So there's a sense of really doing that in the background as well as a next step, and it's a practical next step. It may not seem apparent to you how that leads to this, how that will lead to a job, because this, applying for jobs, may be seen as being a more direct answer to the question. But this is like something that the cards are saying, you have to do this to get this. They may not seem related, but the cards are non-causal, asymmetric, atemporal, and non-spatial. So sometimes they can give you advice that does not seem connected, but it is. Yeah, King to the Page is also to be looser with expectations, because it has flipped, hasn't it, from the King at the end back to the Page. So it's like a starting again as well. And I get that with the Moon as well. There's a starting again. This is like at the beginning. This is sort of at the beginning. Now, we're going to come to the Sun here as a next step. Now, the Sun is quite interesting from Tarot Flip. And as soon as I went from that card to that card, in the back of my head I was thinking, I can't wait to get to this. So the Sun in Tarot Flip is demonstration. The key word that we came up with, and this book was created out of asking real tarot readers from experience what the cards don't do. And we asked that question very particularly because we wanted a difficult answer in order to get the unconscious positive word for the card itself. If the card doesn't do that, then the antonym of the word that they give us, the opposite word, will be what the card actually does signify to them. And we collated them all together, put them into word clouds, and then condensed a single word that summarised most of the words that people were using, because quite often they'd be the same. And for the sun, there were quite a few cards that we got what appeared to be surprising things to begin with, but made absolute sense the moment you thought about them. Like the Magician card in here is success. And when you look at all of the thousands of books on tarot cards and look at the Magician, you get things like skill, channeling, ability, communication, the 4 elements are on the table, all of these sorts of things, maybe trickster things, all of these sorts of things, mercurial things and so forth. But real tarot card readers, in their actual readings, when that card turns up, they naturally start to talk about success, that you will be successful. And of course, that's implied by the fact that the keywords are things like you have all of the elements on the table, you're channeling from above, you have the skill set, you are able to communicate. That all leads to success. And that's why the keyword in here, unconsciously, from real tarot card readers, is success. This is my little secret weapon, because this little book is the only book in the world that has keywords generated from real readings, from actual experience and so forth, and is not generated just by copy and pasting everyone else's meanings from every other book and every website. This little booklet has the actual processed, distilled words out of real tarot card readings, out of hundreds of thousands of hours of actual readings. And the sun, as I said, is demonstration. The sun shines equally on everything, meaning that this part of your reading is bright and obvious good news. But the keyword demonstration is because the sun can only shine. The sun never goes down or rises. The sun is always shining. It's only the earth going round it that gives us the light and dark. The sun can only explode and shine. And as a result, the demonstration aspect of it is basically like the child. You have to strut your stuff. You have to show people what you are worth, what you can do, and not hold back. So, as a next step, I'll answer Bill in a second. Thanks, that's a great question. But as a next practical step, which is, in effect, if you think that each of these cards is the position of a step to take, a third step to take. Okay, so this is first step to take, this second step to take, this is third step to take. That is their position and meaning. This was a 3-card linear reading. It wasn't past, present, future. It was just, this is your situation as a story, as a narrative, as a haiku, as a 3-act play. But these are in the position of, this is your next step. So you've got to accelerate what you're doing and reach out a lot more, a lot faster, and not overthink it. You've got to do some budgeting, some passive budgeting and preparation, really look at your money. And also, I'd say to Tranquil that here what we have with Pentacles, they are a card of resource. And our resources can be money, it can be wealth. But our true resources are 2 things. Is our time and our attention. We spend time, we waste time, we give time to others, we give attention, we take attention away. Things distract our attention. We place our attention in places. Can you see how time and attention are actually in everyday life, our nouns, our things? And this is our true capital. money is basically a token of time and attention. You spend time doing something, you get a token for it. And the value of that is irrelevant. You just get these tokens for it. So this is also a card to say you have to, what's the word I'm stretching for? I'm sort of reaching for, it's like budget. You have to audit. That's the word I'm after. You have to audit your time and attention. In my NLP work, I do a method with people about their beliefs and their values, and then we map it to their time spent doing things during the day. And so many of us end up with our day, with our time and attention, our values being like, this is one value, this is another value, this is another value. But the time we spend in a day doesn't meet any of those values. It only meets the one value, like so. And it's good on occasion to do an audit of where your time and attention, your true capital, are actually being placed. Make sense? And in terms of looking for something more stable, sometimes an initiatory event, whether that is invoked or is evoked upon you, can shift your value system. And maybe for Tranquil, yes, the value system has changed and it would suit you now for something more stable because your values have changed. But in terms of your time and attention, think about auditing where you're placing them, because that is your true capital and your true worth and value. So there's two steps there then. There's the budgeting financially, but also in terms of your resources of time and attention. Okay, make sure they're all being employed by the Knight of Swords. In terms of the Sun, you have to find a way, one way at least. Once you've done one, you can do two, because if you've got one, you're just a robot. If you've got two, you're in a dilemma. Three things, though, is the start of freedom. If you do three things for this card, I want you to list three things you can do tomorrow that demonstrate who you are to other people. Now, that may be sending out your CV, but it may be doing an example of something that you can do as an example of your creativity, your organizational skills, whatever it might be, that demonstrates to other people or to yourself who you are and what you are and how you are. Does that make sense? You have to strut your stuff. You have to walk the talk. You have to show working examples. You have to have samples of who you are and what you do that can be shown other people to demonstrate how you go about things. Make sense? And that is basically, from this, we now have an action plan, which is the next step from those cards. And once you understand that method or that approach, you can apply it in all sorts of different ways. You can turn a one-card reading into a two-card reading. You can turn a past, present, future into a future. You can, what else can you do with it? Do two Celtic crosses. One which is the reading and one which is fully, fully action-orientated, outcome-orientated. Yeah? So here's one Celtic cross, but now you can, and also, because very few people do this method unless they've learnt it from Tarosophy, you can look at other people's readings and you can work out what that person's next step should be, because they are giving away in their readings also what the person's next step should be. You can read a lot more into someone's public reading than people think. And That's why I don't often put public readings publicly. Okay, does that make sense as a whole methodology? And it's from a very simple principle, which is each card has its next step. Now, there is only one little quirk in all of this that I'll just point out. No one's mentioned it, but here it is. And then I'll just have a look at the comments next. We said that for the world card, let me just find, I've got the Magician there. Let me find the world card. Been doing some readings with reversals recently, and some of these cards are upside down, of course. Makes it just there we go. So the world card, just put that there. Can we see that in the I've a slight lag. I've had this before with the software that I'm using. Right, so the world, the next step for the world is the Magician. 21 leads to 1. Okay, because the world comes round in the loop. Can you see these loops here? These 2 infinity loops. The world is 2 dualities. It's called the Hall of Double Truth. It's like the cosmic truth and the everyday truth, or the cosmic duality and the everyday duality, or once you have one duality, you have many dualities. And they're bound by infinity, which the Magician then harmonizes into a singularity. And you can see he's got the same wand here as well, but he's only got 1 of them, whereas the world has got 2 of them. Okay, so the 2 and the 1 become the 1 again, and it cycles round. There is only one card that does not have a next step, which is the unnumbered or 0 card, the Fool. Because the Fool is absolute freedom. The Fool has no necessity. The Fool is at the end and the beginning and the middle of his journey, or her journey, or their journey. The Fool is utter freedom, and therefore is not bound to a next step. And this is why, literally, he does not have a next step. Arthur Edward Waite said something quite interesting about that card as well. Just to back that up, let me find the key to the tarot here. There's a wonderful biblical, it's actually from the Bible, and this is in our course, Spiritual Key to the Tarot. Let's find it. Sorry, the other one here. Got about 15 versions of Pictorial Key. There we go. Now after the Fool, which is by the World in Waite's ordering. This wonderful thing. There we go. The sun, which shines behind him, knows whence he came, whither he is going, and how he will return by another path after many days. He is the spirit in search of experience. But that card to Waite is actually Christ. And the Spiritual Key to the Tarot explains why. Every single thing in Waite's description is that this card is Christ. And when he worked 10 years later on a second set of tarot images, which we have in the Abiding in the Sanctuary book, the Fool is actually depicted as a figure in a crucified position with the stigmata on his feet and hands, because Waite then didn't need to hide the fact it was Christ. So, and this is actually a quote in the Bible that talks about Jesus saying to people, saying to the Pharisees actually, look, you can't tell me who I am. No one can tell me that, because only the divine, and not just for Jesus, but for each of us, knows whence he came, whither he is going, and how he will return by another path after many days. So basically, the Fool is spiritual freedom, absolute freedom, and has no next step. And that's all in pictorial key. When we go and read it that way, that makes sense as well. And so if the Fool is in this reading, like there, then the Fool has no step. It means that there is absolute freedom and, as Chu is saying, pure potential in the reading itself. Now, one other slight quirk that you'll notice from practicing this is sometimes you might get a card here that is actually in the reading, if that makes sense. So the King of Pentacles, we might have done the reading like so. And then, obviously, the King of Pentacles, the next step is actually the Page of Pentacles. It's there in the original reading. How might we interpret that? Because now the language of the cards is giving us a new grammar, and all our job is to try and interpret it. What might it mean that the next step is already in the reading? I'll tell you in a second. I'm going to get confused here now, aren't I? There we go. Because that can happen. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened on occasion. And it is literally as simple as I said it. Oh, we've now got 21 concurrent viewers, so that does mean that we have a full major arcana, including myself. So we've gone from a coven to a pack of majors. Any ideas? I'll give the answer. I'll just give you one more moment to see if anyone has any ideas. I'm sorry to make this interactive. And it is Good Friday. We are working quite late in the day. So thank you for being here. Again, time and attention is very valuable. It's our only resource. Those are actually our capital. Our resource is authenticity. I was trying to think of the only thing that can't be produced or copied is your authenticity. It cannot be manufactured. So authenticity, time and attention, those are our true things that we need to worry about in life, I think. Okay, so the answer is, if the next step is already in the reading, it means that however you interpreted that card in the original reading is already the next step, that you've already taken it. And so that is something you need to look back on. Stand up and go, invest time, don't get complacent. Absolutely. And that's almost a reverse reading going back that way. Don't be complacent, invest your time and strut your stuff, stand up and go, like the child on the horse. So Bill's sort of taking the cards this way as well, which is perfectly fine because they're not in any specific order. Okay, so does that make sense? Something a little bit abstract or maybe even spiritual with regard to the Fool card for sure, but the next step method itself is a very, very straightforward method to take. Okay, so we have actually gone our full hour in just doing this one little method, but I hope that has been useful to people. interesting to people. It's a simple trick that you can do, but it extends your readings, and also it forces you as the reader to really give practical advice and to learn how to give practical, actionable, outcome-orientated advice from the tarot to your clients, which empowers them massively. It really helps earth the reading. If it's too abstract, if it's too full of information, then they can go away and not do anything. But this gives them, in counselling terms, it gives them homework, or in school terms, educational terms, it gives them homework to do. And when I do this method with people, I, as Bill is saying, to tighten it up a little bit, I also ensure that they know that they cannot have another reading from me unless they have actioned the 3 things from the reading itself. Which also answers the question of when do I come back for another reading, or how often can I have a reading? The answer is when you've done something in your life that has made a change from the reading I've just given you, because otherwise what's the point of it? Okay, so any last questions? We've got a few minutes just to take us to the hour that we've allocated for these sessions. Any questions just generally about the tarot while I'm here? If I can answer them, I'll be happy to answer them. I will just fill in the gap with a little advert. I do have a membership tier on the Actual Magicians Bookshelf channel now, and I've got a load of videos. I've got my 10 favourite books already. 10-minute video on each one explaining what the book is, why it's important to Western esotericism, why it's personally important to me, and so on. Notifications don't work for the channel. I think you can switch them on, and I don't know if it's like Facebook. I'll have to investigate it and let you know, but can you sort of have like a favourites or highlight certain notifications from certain channels? I'm not sure. I wish we had them daily. Yeah, I'd be very happy to do them daily. I'd be very happy to do them all of the time, but I think I would end up starving to death and not being able to afford the electricity bill if I did that. But yeah, I would love to do. Your flip book question. Oh yes. Oh, Lilith, I went to the Warburg last week. This is why I didn't do a Friday live this last week. I had the pleasure of Moto-san from the Tarot Tokyo Museum came and stayed here in the Lakes, and I took him down to London, or met him in London, and we went to the exhibition, and I spoke with Moto and introduced him to the director of the Warburg, and we also went to the British Museum, and I'd booked an appointment to go and see the Waite Trinic images with Moto, and so he got to see them all the way from coming across from Tokyo, so he actually got to see the Waite Trinic images, and I took a load of video, and that will be in our members section. Because I can't release that publicly because it's particularly the museum video, but I am quite happy to put that onto the membership to protect it slightly from being made public. So, right, the flip book. Yeah, it's brilliant. To be honest, I had seen the Thoth images before when I was about 19 and first went to the Warburg. And Yeah, I remember how incredible they were, and to see them sort of framed in the gallery was wonderful. It's the first public showing in the UK that they've ever had. They were shown, a few of them, at the biennial in Venice a couple of years ago. But yeah. Yeah, I don't particularly like yes/no readings. We do have a method for that I've used on occasion, but yeah, I think they're not useful. They're too limiting. You might as well flip a coin, really. Now, what was the flip question, Bill? Oh yeah, I like the horses in stables. That's a nice wordplay. Right, would it be fair to say the flip book keywords describe the result of a card if you take the more standard general advice? Yes, absolutely. The flip book keywords are basically distilled from general tarot readers' brains from all of their real readings. So it is the most general but applicable keyword that will fit most readings for most tarot card readers are in here. So they are not just a whole bunch of keywords for each card. They are one keyword for each card. And that keyword is a distillation of the... So it's sort of like, is it the mean, the median, or the average in terms of the meaning cloud for every card in every reading? Because obviously every card is multivalent, as we say. That's how tarot can work, because each card is multivalent and has many meanings. But tarot flip is a distillation from real tarot readers, not from any other source of keywords themselves. In some cases, the keyword words are the ones you will see often in some books, some websites and so forth. But in some cases, they are unique, but very, very, very applicable. And this is the book I actually use when I'm doing a reading for myself and think I've got a bit of bias in it. I just read out what we put in here, because then it's like having a reading from 1,000 tarot card readers all in one go. I do believe that there's something particularly special about the Waite-Smith deck. We've explained that in Secrets of the Waite-Smith Tarot, the book. Let me just do a quick Llewellyn advert here. In this book, we explain why it's so special, but I also think that the Thoth is special in its own way, and I also think that the Waite-Trinick images are very special as well. Brilliant. Oh, thanks a lot, Bill. Yeah. This is one of my more favourite books out of all of the stuff we've done, just because of the concept that generated it, and it just worked out. And also because it's so small as well. It did require a lot more work, actually, than some of the other books. But, yeah, it was worth it, because we don't have to ever do that project again. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. We've overrun a few minutes. Thank you so much. And again, we do have a membership little cabal forming here on YouTube. YouTube, I was on a boot camp with recently for UK creators. They put 100 of us into a little boot camp. And we got to talk to the head of memberships, or the membership system on YouTube, based in Germany. And YouTube are going to do an awful lot more about community building in the future. You heard it here first. Facebook are currently trying to get me to go on courses about Reels, i.e. video, to compete with YouTube. And YouTube are trying to get us to do memberships and communities to compete with Facebook, of course. So, yeah, expect a lot more social media stuff in the future. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you. I think I'll be doing another live next week, and we'll definitely have a look at the Philosopher's Stone, and we'll talk about how to do readings with oracle cards as well. which we've not looked at yet. Okay. And any questions, just drop them in the comments or anywhere that we are on social media. And yeah, happy Good Friday, happy Easter Sunday, happy Bank Holiday Monday to those who have that, and those that celebrate those days. Thanks a lot, everyone, and talk to you all very soon.